Hey guys, it's the Villaman here, home theater enthusiast and lover of all things tech. And today we're testing out the 83-inch LG G4 OLED TV with its MLA technology, its micro lens array to help the TV achieve greater brightness output using billions of micro lenses to reflect light back at the viewer. Now, this is the first year that the MLA technology is available on the 83-inch size. Last year, the G3, it stopped at the 77-inch version, and that was a pretty bright TV and contender for the top TV of the year. This one is as well. The 83-inch, now it has the best technology with the biggest size with that MLA technology included. So we're going to test it to see just how well it performs, how bright it gets in game mode, and just how well it is to game on. So stick around. We'll be testing the input lag from 60 to 144 Hertz, as well as the color accuracy and the brightness in game mode, along with just how it feels while gaming. So we'll be testing using the Villa Consola, which is my gaming PC with a NVIDIA RTX 4090 GPU, as well as an Intel 7800X 3D CPU. So it goes without saying that the PC testing will be done at 144 Hertz because we want to push this thing to the limit to see just how good it is, just how good it feels to game on. And if you're in the market for this or any of the other top 2024 model TVs, then make sure to give our friends at Value Electronics a visit. I've left their link in the description because they have some of the best audio and video gear. So if you're creating or even expanding your home theater, then they are a great source. All right, so first thing we're going to do is do some measurements of the performance of the TV. Then we'll do some measurements of the picture accuracy and brightness in game mode. I currently have it connected to my gaming PC, the Villa Consola, with NVIDIA RTX 4090 and an AMD Ryzen 7300X CPU. So it's pretty powerful. At 120 Hz, it's similar to the G3 where the input lag is measured at 4.8 milliseconds. At 144 Hz, the input lag is measured at 4.1 milliseconds. At 60 Hz, the input lag is measured at 12.9 milliseconds. And when you enable the input lag boost setting that's in the game optimizer, then the input lag drops down to 9.3 milliseconds, which is similar to what the G3 had. At 120 and 144 Hz, enabling the input lag boost doesn't have any effect on the input lag. Using Calman calibration software to test the picture accuracy, we see that the grayscale accuracy comes in pretty good at 3.7 average delta E, which is above the 2.5, which indicates a perceptible level of deviation. But at 3.7, it's pretty low and it's much better than the actual color accuracy with an average delta E of 20.8. This means that there's a pretty significant deviation in the colors. Here we only made some changes to the white balance. Once you go into display settings, you can see that the refresh rate goes up to 120 Hz. To enable the 144 Hz mode, you'll have to open the game optimizer and enable that setting specifically. There's also the settings for VRR and G-Sync, as well as FreeSync and LLM that can be enabled from that menu as well, among others. Once we enable that 144 Hz mode, that's when we see the option appearing in the display settings. Windows actually defaults to 1500 nits for an HDR display unless you change it. And to enable G-Sync, especially if you're playing games that don't natively support it, then you can go into the NVIDIA control panel and select the G-Sync option, and it will then show as enabled when you bring up the game optimizer. On the PS5, even without an external sound system, we can enable Dolby Atmos because the TV supports Dolby Atmos. And just like the Xbox Series X, We have support for VRR and 120 Hz output. There's also support for 1440p if you want to have a lower resolution with higher frame rate on the PS5. So that's an option for anyone who wants to do some high frame rate gaming. When we bring up the Xbox, we see that the TV supports pretty much every gaming format out there, from Dolby Vision for gaming, HDR10, 120 frames per second at 4K. Everything's checked green, so that's what we want to see. Some TVs don't have this an exhaustive a list of supported features, but the LG TVs normally have some great gaming features, and the G4 is no different. With a 1% window, the peak brightness in movie mode was about 1500 nits. The peak brightness in game mode, however, was about 90 nits less than it was in the movie mode. So while it's not quite as bright as the movie mode, the peak brightness in game mode is very close. This was with ALLM enabled, by the way. Alright, so now we know how the TV measures. Let's see how it actually performs in the real world, how it actually looks while gaming. The test will be done at 144 Hz because why not? We'll be using Overwatch 2, of course, on the Villa Consola gaming PC that I mentioned earlier. This will also be done at daytime in full brightness with the blinds open because we want to see how the TV handles bright light incoming and reflections, because the TV has a higher peak brightness now, so let's see how it does in bright room gaming. Overwatch 2 is a pretty colorful game with some bright maps and some not so bright maps. And it doesn't support G-Sync natively, so we had that enabled using the NVIDIA control panel. This here is one of the brighter maps, and we can see that there's barely any reflections visible from the windows, and that's good. That means that the average picture level on this G4 OLED TV, the 83-inch version with MLA, can actually get bright enough to drown out these ambient light sources, so the windows that are located directly to the side and in front of the TV. There's still some points where on the darker scenes where you can see the reflections from the window because of course the TV has a glossy screen, so once the scene is dark enough you will see those reflections because it basically becomes a mirror. Though it's not quite as bad as that, there is some degree of scattering of the light that happens on the screen, but definitely not enough to actually make any significant impact when the TV is displaying a dark scene. And because of the contrast performance, then the colors really pop in a game like this with its cartoony nature. But since the colors are also pretty saturated by default on the TV in game mode, then this actually seems extra saturated and extra punchy. There are some TVs, of course, that look even more saturated, like the QD-OLED, for example, but we'll be comparing those two TVs in the next few days. Having the option for 120 Hz and 144 Hz is certainly great though, because it feels noticeably different than 60 Hz. It just feels faster, smoother, more responsive. So if you have the ability and the option to game at 120 Hz or higher, then I definitely advise you take it.
Don't tell anyone. Into the iris. Sniper. I still think we can win.
Time to blow it in!
Come here, will you?
Can't wait! Orbit! Well... Monster fire in the hole! Laissez tickle their feet!
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
Fall back.
Strike from above.
Ready.
Repositioning.
Life protects life.
That's 3 in a row. I got you covered. Crime doesn't pay.
Pass into the iris.
On an overall darker and much more violent game like Helldivers, we can see where the reflections of the window in front of the TV come into view, more so than it does on a brighter game like Overwatch 2 before it. This game on PC is an exercise in inventory and stress management and gets really crazy. But it does have some nice shadow detail and some nice specular highlights for those explosions, so it's a pretty good test as well. It's just too bad that my own equipment kills me more so than I care to admit. When we switch over to God of War Ragnarok on the PS5, we can see where even though it's a very bright game, it does have a lot of dark elements, so we can see the reflection of the light coming through the window on the TV reflected on the screen. But that may not be an issue if you have a light control room or if you don't mind minor reflections. Just know that all the gaming features that the PS5 has are supported by the G4 OLED TV. So whether that be LLM, VRR, or 120 Hertz, you are all set if you have the G4. No, I think this TV has spoiled me as far as gaming is concerned because I feel like my monitor doesn't really compare anymore with my PC monitor. So I've been, sitting on the sofa and gaming, not using a controller, mind you, using a mouse and keyboard. And it's just such a better experience sometimes than sitting at the computer desk because the TV is so large and the response time is so great that I don't really miss anything. It's actually faster than my computer monitor as far as input lag is concerned, as far as brightness is concerned, and contrast performance. So it pretty much has my computer monitor beat in every respect. It also goes up to 144 Hertz versus the 60 Hertz of my monitor. So you can see where, as far as, competitive gaming, this TV is better than some monitors out there. Granted, it depends on the objective of your setup, your PC setup, whether you are, creating videos, you need color accuracy or what have you. But this TV also does that too because it has pretty accurate color production out of the box. So as far as gaming is concerned, it's really good. As far as brightness is concerned, it's almost the level of the movie mode, but not quite there yet. That's neither here nor there because the difference is pretty minuscule. The input lag is great. The color accuracy though does need some improvement. The grayscale accuracy is pretty on point for what it is. But yeah, these TVs may actually help to usher in the age of sofa PC gaming, which will be very interesting. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions because I'll be comparing this TV to the 77-inch Samsung S95C QD-OLED TV. So let me know in the comments if there's anything you want to see in the picture comparison or the gaming comparison that I'll be doing for those TVs. Now is the time. So if you haven't subscribed yet, then make sure to subscribe so you know when those videos drop. And thanks for watching. Until next time, this has been your friend and neighborhood little man saying be safe and peace.